I'm getting some good vibes from this pedal.
Have you ever looked at all the gear musicians use and wonder, how does it all work? My name's Dustin, and my family and I are setting out on a quest to inspire both adult and kid musicians to create new sounds together and learn all about what it takes to produce great music. We'd like to invite you along on the journey as we explore the gear professional studios, musicians, and hobbyists use to create their art. We'll take a close-up look at the gear and ask,
What's this button do?
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of What's This Button Do? I'm your host Dustin, and this week we're going to be taking a look at a brand new pedal that just hit the market to see how it stacks up to some classics of one of my favorite effects of all time, the Uni-Vibe. You see, Robin Trower, Mike McCready, David Gilmour, and of course Jimi Hendrix put the Uni-Vibe on the map, one of the greatest effects of all time that gets this super gnarly, choppy sound. Truly a unique effect, and typically one that does not do well in a modern footprint. Some of the best ones of all time are Sabbadius, Shin-I, of course, is the original. And there's been a few other makers who've really nailed it, but they almost always have to use a really cool optical filter because there's a lot going on in a Uni-Vibe. What the effect is basically at its core is in a way a phaser, but what it's doing is modulating the sound and creating this waveform and making it go not like a wah pedal, but in this choppy way that kind of creates an up and down that you'll hear on a lot of classic, like The Wind Cries Mary from Jimi Hendrix. You'll hear a lot on David Gilmour. You'll recognize it when we start getting into it. But it's a very, very classic tone. The problem is there's a lot of components that go into that and typically does not work in a small form factor. A very, very few number of pedal makers have made something. I think one of my favorites is actually down here on the pedal board right now. It's by Drybell, called the Vibe Machine. That's probably the smallest form factor that I've heard sound really close to a classic Uni-Vibe, but even it doesn't nail that perfect sound. But enter a wonderful pedal maker, Adrian Thorpe at Thorpy Effects, who's also partnered with Dan Coggins. They have created a new pedal called the ER-2, and this is a kind of ground up take on the circuit where they have tried to capture the sounds without using the exact same parts that were in the old Uni-Vibes to give you more options and more creativity. So let's unbox this. Let's hop over to the pedal board. I have got my Sabbadius Uni-Vibe plugged into the chain as well. So we're gonna test this up against it and see how it does and let you hear some of the sounds and see what you think. All right, we'll meet you over at the board in just a second. All right, everybody. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to take a modern version of the Shin-I Uni-Vibe made by Sabbadius, the Sabbadius Funky-Vibe Mastermind, which I honestly believe is the best modern recreation of the Uni-Vibe that I've ever played. This is off of my main board. So we're going to use that and compare the ER-2 to that because I think that'll give us a good idea of classic sounds that the ER-2 can do, but also maybe some of the modern things that maybe my Sabbadius can't do. So let's take a look at both of those side by side. I'm going to start, before we even get into the vibe part of this, we are going to look at the preamps here. We're going to use my Sipho H19. This is just a absolutely killer guitar. We'll play some kind of Yellow Ledbetter-y, Pearl Jammy sounds because that used a Uni-Vibe in it and give you kind of that idea so you can hear that. We'll mess around with some different tones. But the first thing I'm going to show you is the preamp because these old preamps were absolutely amazing. We're going to start with the Sabbadius so you can hear it. So here's your clean tone. Now, with the drive, now that's with the volume totally maxed out. I'm going to do the same thing to the ER-2, and then let's go clean tone. Same thing over here. I think the Sabbadius gives it a little bit more kind of a bassy touch. Got it down there. Sorry, this keeps shifting down on me. Yeah, I can hear a little bit of difference there. Which I like. The ER-2 is kind of a clean boost in a way. It's got a nice clean sound to it. Let's take these back down to like a 7 o'clock, because I think noon on this one, 4 o'clock is about the just completely no impartation of tone at all. So let's take it to about 7 o'clock on both of them and see what that sounds like. So again, clean tone. I love that. Yeah, you can hear it. That note right there. You can hear the bassier side there. So you don't hear that bassy sound. So that the Sabbadius is definitely imparting something on there, a warmth, a depth there, which can be great, but it can also take away from certain things. So I can see that. This has got a very clean preamp boost on there. Now we're going to go into the vibrato chorus, or the vibrato mode instead of the chorus. And I want to show you what a lot of old musicians will do. And this is a recording trip too. For any of you who are doing some home recordings, this is a really cool way to add life to a dead sounding guitar. If you've got a solo where, here, I'm going to turn this off for a second. Say you got a guitarist who's playing and it's just... They're not adding vibrato with their fingers. They're not doing any of that. They're just... And it's just kind of a boring playing. What you can do is add a little bit of movement, a subtle kind of almost making it sound like the musician's finger is moving with the notes by just taking this vibrato mode, and then you give it a little bit more intensity. Oh, got to bring it back into the mix here. I'm going to take the intensity down a little, bring the speed up a little. Take it out. It's very subtle, and the more intensity you add to it, the more you'll hear it. And I'll even put the little boost up a little bit more. And with a chord, you really hear it. Hear that little bit of movement? Now I'm going to take it out. It just makes your ears hear this little extra motion. Let's see if the ER-2 can do that as well. Give it a little more speed. So let's go clean first. Here's where that preamp really shines. Wow. Let's go back here. Turn the preamp up a little bit. Wow, that just adds this amazing richness there. Or if I played those single notes. See how much more movement there is and sweetness there? And man, with that pre, I am in love with that. Wow. Okay. Wow, Thorpy, the vibe mode on this. I am grooving that hardcore. That is really, really, really something. go full intensity here. Let's keep the speed down and see what happens here. Let's do the same thing back to the Sabbadius. Crank the intensity all the way up, leave the speed down. See, the old school vibes were very subtle and not really over the top because the pre, again, it's not pushing in the same way. But I'm fascinated by this ER-2. Even full intensity, it doesn't sound bad. But man, you stick it around 4 o'clock. I mean around 11 o'clock. That is just a sweetener. Okay, we have taken a look at the vibe function. Now let's get into the chorus side of things, because this is really where these shine, and it is where I think the Funky-Vibe is going to have some serious potential here. So we're going to start off, because I think the Voodoo version on the Mastermind is pretty close, either the 68 or the Voodoo, to the ER-2 sound. So let's start there. We're going to do the Funky-Vibe first, and then we'll do the ER-2. So we'll start here. Now this is that classic Hendrixy sound. So when I play some single note stuff, you can hear it. It's almost like a phaser, but it just in and out with that photocell. Just a beautiful sound. And where the Funky-Vibe Mastermind is really amazing is there's 3 different versions of it in here. So we have a 68, which is a little smoother, a little less choppy. Then the Voodoo, which is the first one you heard. Here it has just a little bit more chop at the peaks, at the lows and the highs. There's a more hard cutoff there. And then the Mastermind, which is the chunky. Definitely way more phasery to it. Just gorgeous. So I'm going to stay at the Voodoo here, and then let's turn this off. Let's turn the ER-2 on, and we're going to keep that at what we're going to boost up the preamp just a little bit, because I've got this one sitting right around there. We'll put it right around there, and then we'll set the intensity and the speed pretty close to the same. Watch the light here. So we got 2, 3, and here. Increase that speed just a little. There we go. Yeah, we're pretty close. Maybe a little fast on here. There we go. All right, now we'll play them. So that sounds kind of like it's got a hard chop there. And I think if we turn this offset down just a little bit, it's kind of nice that we can soften that chop up just a little bit if we go way down. Kind of cool, but I'm going to keep it up here for the purposes of this demo. We're going to go a little less intense. See, it's just nice, soft, that intensity really on the ER-2. Really does cut it down. Switch back. Bring the intensity down a little bit here. Now you can hear there the ER-2, the preamp on it, again, it's got that clarity and that crispness where the Funky-Vibe's a little bit deeper. Let's just play one chord. Little chimey. Still close. But on the bassier notes. You can hear the crispness on the ER-2 where the Funky-Vibe's just a little bit muddier. Let's try the Mastermind version of that and see what that does. So you can see, like, there is a crispness to that ER2 that the Funky-Vibe just doesn't have with the way that the preamp works. However, I do think there's beauty in that muddiness of the original, the old school Funky-Vibe. But I think the ER2 really does a great job of that. I'm going to turn the preamp down on the ER2. I'm curious to see if it gets muddy there. Let's go back over to our Funky-Vibe. Yeah, that preamp just pushes a little bit louder and crisper on the ER2, but you can hear the waveform on those old photocell units like the Sabbadius. It is just a special wave versus the cleaner version. Of the ER2. There's a difference there. It's not an exact match, and I'm sure with some dialing in you can get a little closer to it. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to do a little testing with some fuzz. I'm going to do the ER2 first, and then we'll try all three modes of the Funky-Vibe. I'll try to keep the speeds roughly the same. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. They're pretty close. And then I'm going to bring the intensity up because when we're using fuzz, we like to have that just a little funkiness. All right, let's give it a try and see what happens. And here on the 68 version, a little more intense. Let's drop that intensity. Actually, I'm going to leave the intensity there up. I'm going to go back to the ER2 and bring up the intensity a little bit. Very cool. Let's go back in. Go to the voodoo setting. In here on that voodoo side, it's a little chewier. And even when I'm muted here, let's switch between the two. So, hear that? And you can hear the preamp is taking that a little less, so it has a little bit less bass roll on that chewy, on that side. And I know I keep saying the word chewy, but that's the best way I can think of describing that, is you just get this deeper, kind of gummier into the peaks and the valleys on this. All right, let's try one more thing. Let's go to the Mastermind setting on the Funky-Vibe, because this is my favorite setting for fuzz pedals. There is something special here because this gets almost into wah territory. Let's see versus the ER2. Let's bring the intensity up on the ER2. Let's go back to that Mastermind. See, there's just nothing that beats that old school. See, totally sounds like you're playing a wah pedal. Just a really, really cool, funky sound. I gotta say, like, I love the vibe on the ER2, but that Mastermind on the Funky-Vibe, something special about that too. So yeah, but the crazy thing is when you're talking classic Uni-Vibes, man, I am really, really impressed. Like, we'll go back to the levels on here, just take them one at a time. One more time. Do a little bit more intensity there. Bring it back to position 2. Same thing over here. We're bringing the intensity down. I just love how the preamp on the ER2 gives you that cleaner, more modern sound, while still giving you that fun phase of the original Uni-Vibe. So I gotta say, for just a good clean push, kind of like the ER-2. So yeah, there is a lot to love about this. Okay, so what's the verdict? I've got to say, on the ER-2 side, the vibe and the preamp on there, I think, are absolutely mind-blowing. I will put them on my board just for that reason. I've got a couple pedals like the dry bell that probably are going to come out. Not that the dry bell's bad. It's just the functionality for what you get. Having the foot switch where you can switch between chorus and vibe easily without having to bend over and flip a switch. That's a huge bonus in my opinion. But really, it's that clean, crisp preamp and the beautiful sound on the cleans with both the vibe and the chorus on the ER-2 that just really wins me over. Now, the real question, will I stop using the Sabbadius? And the answer there has to be a no. I love the Sabbadius Vibe, especially the Mastermind version. And I gotta say, I think especially the 68 version and the Voodoo version, the ER-2 gets close to that. And I think I could see, especially on a tour, if I didn't want to beat up the Sabbadius, I can see the ER-2 pulling off both of those perfectly well and sounding really good in a live situation. I think it'd be great. The Mastermind is where I think it loses it. That chewier, wilder vibrato, especially with a fuzz pedal behind it, that gets almost wah-esque. The ER-2 doesn't have that sound in it that I found yet. So I really think the Mastermind does a great job in that. And then the old school Chennai Uni-Vibes definitely had that sound that I just don't think the ER-2 is quite there, and it's not doing that thing. But that's not to say the ER-2 is bad, because it's not. Like, that's the one thing it can't do. But I think all of the other things that it does, it is doing them better, in my opinion. Like, I'm hearing crisp cleans. I think that preamp has a lot of fun left in it. We're just using it kind of by itself right now. But I think once I start messing with compression, other effects blending with that, I think there's going to be a whole world that opens up there that could be really fun. And I think with a little EQing, that ER-2 is going to be able to do so much more than what a classic Chennai Vibe is at half the price. So I got to say, well done, Thorpy and Dan, Adrian, you guys nailed it. This is flipping awesome. It is going on my board permanently. I'm absolutely in love. Like I said, I'm still taking the Sabbadius Mastermind version for that funky wah chewy sound. But for everything else, man, the ER-2 just killed it. Absolutely nailed it. So well done, everyone. Well, I hope that helped give you a little sounds. I know it's not a super in-depth review of them, but I wanted you to hear the two side by side so you could hear the differences and the similarities between them. Thank you so much for coming out this week. Thanks again to my friends at Palen for making all of this possible and helping me out, sponsoring the channel. And to everybody out there, the next couple weeks are going to be really interesting. We're going to be doing some coverage on the new storefront in Overland Park. Be talking a little bit about Fidelity guitars. And we may even have a few special amps and things that we're going to be taking a look at here pretty soon. So join us in the coming weeks. We should have some very interesting episodes up. If you have any question on either of these pedals, please comment down below. I would love to follow up, help you out. If you want to hear some different sounds with these, hear them paired with other pedals, please let me know. I'll be glad to shoot those videos. We'll throw them up either here or on my Instagram. You can follow me at What's This Button Do Dustin on Instagram. And I'll put some little short videos up there too as we try and experiment with new things. So thank you all for coming out this week. Hope you have a wonderful week, and I'll see you soon. Take care.